What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's transfer tips for Game Week 8. The international break is not quite over, but it's getting there. So I thought we'd get back into the swing of FPL content to talk about a bunch of players that are being sold or brought in by people, and I'm going to give you my opinion on whether they are good moves or not. So let's get into it. So let's start with Mo Salah. No midfielder has had more transfers out so far this week. Lots of people thinking about selling. He's dropped from 14.5 to 14.4 million. I think it's quite a tricky decision if you've held on to him this long. Because in game week 6, it was fairly straightforward if you were thinking about doing the Salah to Haaland switch. Because Salah had Palace away, Chelsea away, and Haaland had Burnley at home, Brentford away. So you could quite easily justify making that move. Now it's a little bit more difficult. Because although Haaland's absolutely smashing it and has good fixtures, Salah's fixtures are just as good, if not slightly better. Right? There's not a huge amount in it. But I think you could say the next 3 fixtures are slightly better for Liverpool. So it doesn't make as much sense to sell him. But at the same time, he's not playing particularly well. The underlying numbers are pretty awful compared to what we're used to with Salah. And it's not quite clicking for Liverpool right now. Now, at some point, I'm sure it will. That Liverpool team is too good to keep on playing as they have done. And they've not been awful, right? They're still second in the league. I completely get that. But they've not been as good as we saw last season so far. At some point it will click, I'm sure. It's just a case of when will that be. I think my main feeling with whether or not you should sell Salah, and this is going to be a bit of a theme throughout this video, is do you really need the money right now? So if you haven't got Haaland and you're sick of going without him, fair enough, make the switch. But if you've got Salah and Haaland, how much do you need the cash by selling Salah? If the answer is, I don't really need it right now, then I would probably look to hold on to him. Like, if it's a Salah to Saka straight switch, and you're not going to use the additional money that it frees up straight away, I wouldn't make that switch. If I was free hitting this week, I'd rather have Salah against Man United at home than Saka against Fulham away. Saka's a great option right now. His price is not that bad, but he's not essential for Fulham away. I'd much rather roll the transfer than decide what to do in game week 9, maybe game week 10 instead. And it's worth noting the fixtures for Liverpool are pretty good now for quite a while. Man City away in 11 is tough, but before that, Man United at home, Brentford away, Villa at home. And then in 12, it's Forest at home. 13, it's West Ham away. In 14, it's Sunderland at home. There's some really nice fixtures coming up. So if the rest of your squad looks pretty good, or you've only got one free transfer, I would just hold on to him. But if you want to switch to Haaland, I think it's still fair enough. And if you want to do something like Salah to Saka, because that frees up like 3-4 million to go and put in your forward line, another midfielder, defender, I also think that's fair as well. Because right now, if it's one or the other, it has to be Haaland. You can't quite make the case for Salah. That could change at any moment, but it's a case of how long will that be. So one or the other, I'm definitely going Haaland. But if your squad looks good overall and you're happy with it, I don't see a need to force him out. Like, he's not been great and has not been as good as we would come to expect. But I don't feel like he's completely done as a FPL pick, right? At some point, he's going to score plenty of goals, plenty of assists. He's not going to get the same returns as last year. That was never going to happen anyway. But there's still plenty of goals, plenty of assists in there. So, yeah, that's where I'd be at. If you want to sell to Haaland, fair enough. If you need the money, also fair enough. If not, I would just hold on to him for a bit longer. Who would be surprised if he comes away from Man United at home with 1 or 2 attacking returns? Certainly not me. I am not looking forward to that match whatsoever. So let's stick to Liverpool and talk about Virgil van Dijk next. He's had quite a few transfers out so far this week, which is kind of understandable because at 6.1 million, he doesn't feel like great value right now. In fact, if you go to the FPL page and list it by total points for defenders, you got to go quite far down to find Van Dijk, sitting on 29 points, the same as Joachim Andersen and Matty Cash. Then you've got a whole list of defenders ahead of him. Porro, Rodon, Van der Ven, Romero, Tarkowski, Truffaut, Richards, Keane, Mitchell, Chalobah, etc. And there's more ahead of. There's even more after that as well. But I'm not going to go through every single name. So not great value, but obviously, like I've just said with Salah, the fixtures coming up are not bad. Now, Man United at home, game week 8. Would I expect United to score in that game? Probably, but it wouldn't be a shock if Liverpool kept a clean sheet. Then it's another home game in 10 against Villa. Man City away, not great, but then it's another home game against Forest in 12. It's Sunderland at home in 14. The away game in between is West Ham. There's plenty of good fixtures coming up. And Liverpool defence have not been at the best so far, but they're still going to be one of the top defences come the end of the season. He's still not bad for DEFCONs. He's also got pretty decent attacking threat. Often, in fact, I think he's pretty consistent for goals over the last few seasons. Let me just find him here. Yeah, 3 goals last year, 2 before that, 3 before that, 3 before that. So over the last 4 seasons, he scored 11 goals. Hasn't got one yet, but we know at some point it's going to come. So although the value's not been there so far, I still think he looks like a pretty good option moving forward. And lots of people are going to be wildcarding in 12 or 13 for the Liverpool fixture swing, as well as a couple of other clubs as well. I mean, who are you going to go for in defence right now? It's got to be Van Dijk. He's better, I would say, than Konate for not much more money. I don't think anyone trusts Gyökeres, and like Bradley, Frimpong, who's even going to start? Probably Szoboszlai, right? So if you want 3 players from Liverpool and you're wildcard in 12 or 13, you're probably not going to go for 3 attackers. One's got to be a defensive option. And unless Alisson was out for ages, which he's probably not going to be, it's almost got to be Van Dijk. So that tells me if you've already used your wildcard and you've not really got a great place to go to, then I would just hold on to him for the long term because the fixtures are pretty good. In fact, if I look at the fixture analyzer or Fantasy Football Hub, this is just one of the tools they've got. As always, if you want to sign up, links in the description below. You can order it by defence, but that only takes into account the fixtures rather than the team strength as well. If I go on clean sheets for the next 6 game weeks, 8 to 13, Liverpool in 4th place. And that's just because of how many good home fixtures they've got, plus some not bad away ones as well. Obviously, if you don't have Gabriel or Timber and you want to get an Arsenal defender and your only route to do it is to sell Van Dijk, then that's probably fair enough. But there's not really a huge amount of other defenders I think are worth going to. So again, it comes down to that question, how much do you need the money? If you want to do Van Dijk to like a Senesi or a 4.5 or a 4 million defender even, to have 1 to 2 million extra to spend, fair enough. But in terms of other defenders that are miles better than him right now, with the fixtures coming up, I'm not sure there's that many. Like Man City are second on this list, so going to Vardiol would be okay. But once Aït-Nouri is back, is there going to be a little bit of competition there? Obviously, Vardiol can play centre-back, but they've got other players that can play that role as well. For what it's worth, I think Vardiol is fine, but I just don't think I'll be doing Van Dijk to Vardiol as a transfer. And then you've got Chelsea in 3rd spot, and the fixtures are really good for Chelsea. We're going to talk about Enzo Fernandes later. I'm just not sure I trust it. Like, even Gyökeres has already been benched this season. Chalobah will probably keep playing. His goal threat is decent. His defensive contributions are good as well. But at some point, if they get other defenders back to full fitness, even Chalobah could get a rest at some point. You know, someone like Van Dijk's probably not going to happen. And don't get me wrong, Chalobah, Gyökeres are not going to get benched every other week. But the doubt's always there. So I think Van Dijk's basically okay to hold on to unless you want a better value defender, which is absolutely fair enough. But to use a transfer to get rid of someone that you probably, not definitely, but maybe, let's just say maybe, want back from game week 12 when he's actually got some good fixtures before that as well, I think you've got to be really sure it's worth that free transfer, basically. Let's talk about Antoine Semenyo next. His overall ownership is currently sitting at 59.8%. He is in so many teams at the moment, and his price has gone right up to 7.9 million. There's 2 questions that people will have if they don't own him already. 1, is there any point in going there when everyone already owns him? And 2, is he worth paying 7.9 million for? It's okay when you got on him for like 7 to 7.5, but now you've got to pay close to 8 million. That's not something we were expecting at the start of the season. On the ownership thing, it is quite boring to bring in a player where every time you see a team on YouTube or Twitter, you know, that person owns him. But if he's a good option, I would not worry about that. Points is all that matters. Yes, it's nice when they come from differentials. And if you nail a bunch of differentials all at once, it can absolutely fly you up the ranks. But it's not the only thing that matters. If Semenyo, out of the midfielders you're looking at, is going to score the most points, you should bring him in, even if he's nearly 60% owned. So on the ownership thing, wouldn't worry about it. For 7.9 million, is he going to continue to be great value? Probably not. But at some point, you've got to spend your money. And I think if you take away what he's done so far, which is probably a little bit of overperformance, let's forget the first 7 game weeks and you look at him as he stands right now, 90 minutes every single week. He's always in that Bournemouth team. Very, very rarely gets subbed off. That's great. There's no Europe for Bournemouth either. So there's nothing to kind of rotate for outside of cup games, but that's probably not going to happen. So he's going to play pretty much every single league game. If you look at his underlying numbers, you know, without the actual goals and assists he scored, 0.42 non-penalty expected goals per 90. That's pretty good goal threat, especially when you always play the full 90. and he's presumably first choice penalty taker right now when Kluivert's not on the pitch. I also, by the way, think there is a chance, and it's probably less than 30 or 20%, but there's a chance that even when Kluivert's on the pitch, Semenyo might just take it. He's just in the zone right now. He's taken the last when he scored it. There is a chance. I would probably put my money on Kluivert if they're both on the pitch at the same time, but it's not completely out of the question. It's Semenyo. And Kluivert's not really been a part of that 11 playing kind of 60, 70, 80 minutes every game anyway. So there's a lot of time when Semenyo's on the pitch when Kluivert's not. So always 90. The underlying numbers are great, or pretty decent, I would say. And he's on penalty. I still think he's just a good option at 7.9 million. Like, it'll probably end up now that players like Enzo, Fernandes, Ismaila Sarr, etc. will be better value. But again, at some point, you've got to spend your money for consistency, for minutes, whatever it might be. And I still think Semenyo is pretty good for 7.9. You could look at the fixtures and say they're quite tough at the moment. Like, 3 of the next 4 are away. And 2 of those away games are Palace away this week and City away in 10, which are not easy. But Bournemouth will give any team, something to think about from an attacking sense. And it's Forest at home in 9. If Ange Postecoglou is still in charge, that's a good fixture. Villa away in 11, not terrible. And then from 12 onwards, the fixtures get pretty good again. So he's just someone you can kind of put in and forget about. Like, as an owner, someone that's got him in their team, I briefly, for like 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, probably a minute, thought, I've got the money, I could go Semenyo to Saka, but what is the point in selling someone like this? He does feel like he's going to get to the point where his last season's in Burmo, where yes, he's overperforming a bit, but everything is still, like, all the underlying numbers are still good. So I think he has overperformed. If you're a non-owner of Semenyo, you've got every right to be a little bit annoyed about how many points we've got from him, but it doesn't make him a bad pick. He is still good going forward. And actually, going up to 7.9 million, if you look at the midfielders he's kind of competing with, I think you can probably argue, at that price, he's probably better than most of them. Like Cunha, you can't go to right now for Man United. Mbeumo's fine, but I would argue Semenyo is better for 0.2 million less. Foden's fine, but I think if you haven't already got him, you're probably not buying him right now. That window seems to have gone a bit. Odegaard's got an injury at the moment. Eze is 0.3 million less, but doesn't quite have the minutes unless Odegaard's injured for a while and doesn't have penalties. And by the way, if Eze does have all those, let's say Odegaard's out for a while, Eze is quite competitive with Semenyo, but I wouldn't say he's better, and he's only 0.3 million less. So I just think at the price point, he's still great. And if you haven't got him and it's been frustrating, you don't really want to go there because of ownership, I don't know. Sometimes it's nicer to put these players in and not have to worry about them and just focus your transfers elsewhere. And it's a similar conversation with Senesi at Bournemouth. His ownership is not quite as high as Semenyo. It's sitting at 25.2% overall, but he's gone up to 5 million now. So if you don't already own him, you're having to pay a little bit more than everyone else. I would say there's less of a rush to get Senesi. Not that you've got to force Semenyo into your team, but if you're looking for a new attacker, I would definitely still have him as one of the top options. With Senesi, he's still fine at 5 million. We know how good he can be for defensive contributions. But those 3 away games in the next 4, I feel okay saying Bournemouth could definitely get something from an attacking sense. But clean sheets, I'm not sure they're really there. Like Palace away in 8 is going to be difficult. City away in 10, definitely. And then Villa, who knows, because they haven't played well so far this season. But it is a home game. Maybe Europe will be affecting them quite a lot at that point. You can still see Villa scoring against Bournemouth. So I look at the next 4 fixtures and I see maybe 1 clean sheet there, which is Forest at home. Now, obviously, defenders have other routes to points, goals, assists, and also defensive contributions this year. And Senesi's got them in 6 out of 7 games so far. But he's not, I don't look at him and think he's essential to buy right now. I think if you've gone this far without him, what's another few weeks? It's not like he's going to suddenly jump to 5.3, 5.4 million. You're probably okay for price rises for a little while now, in terms of major spikes in his ownership, etc. So I think he's fine to bring in if you need a new defender, but I wouldn't look at it as a problem if he's not in your team. And also, not buying before Palace away is fine. If anything, just leave it until the Forest game in 9. So another defender similar price to Senesi is Dan Burn at 5.1 million. He's the 4th most transferred in defender so far this week behind Gabriel, Timber, and no surprise, Senesi himself. I think the way that Newcastle have defended so far this season is quite encouraging. Their expected goals conceded numbers are really good. I think they're in the top 3 so far. If they could keep that up, there'd be plenty of clean sheets to come. That being said, I don't know if I'd be in a rush to buy Dan Burn at the moment. 3 in the next 4, like Senesi, are away from home, and none of them individually are terrible fixtures. It's just not a fixture I'd necessarily be going out of my way to target for clean sheets. So Brighton in 8 is away from home, West Ham in 10, then Brentford in 11. Game week 9 not bad against Fulham. So overall, like I said, it's not terrible. If you've got Dan Burn, you're probably planning to play him in most of those games. But I don't know if I go out of my way to buy him. And also, then you've got the defensive contribution conversation as well. And Dan Burn's playing a lot of minutes at left back. And Livramento's injured. Lewis Hall has apparently had a setback as well. Dan Burn's probably going to get lots of minutes in that position rather than playing centre back. And that's going to dent his defensive contribution appeal. So if you look at what he's done so far, I think he's picked it up twice. So he picked it up in game week 5 against Bournemouth, where I believe he was a centre back. Actually, sorry, he's picked it up 3 times. Bournemouth in game week 5, Liverpool in game week 2, and Villa in game week 1. And in all 3 of those games, he was a centre-back. And the last 2, he switched to left-back. Arsenal at home in 6 and Forest at home in 7. Now, against Arsenal, he almost got it. But that's primarily because it was Arsenal. And in the easier fixture, like Forest at home, he only got 4. So I don't know if he's going to be quite as consistent anyway, like a Senesi or a Joachim Andersen. And now also not playing centre-back's not going to help. It's not that he can never pick it up, but his chances of doing it are probably going to be a little bit less. And obviously he's got some goal threat from set pieces, so he's not become an awful option all of a sudden. I just don't know if he'd be my go-to. I think if I was choosing between Burn and Senesi right now, I would still just buy Senesi instead, and he's a little bit cheaper. So it's not that I dislike the Newcastle defence. And if you want to target them, by the way, Dan Burn probably is the one to get. I just think he's a little bit less interesting than maybe he looked a few weeks ago. So I'm sad to say that Bruno Fernandes is the 3rd most sold midfielder this week behind Mo Salah and Jack Grealish, but I also completely understand it. At 9 million, he's not amazing value, and I think the total points have underwhelmed a bit so far, so people are frustrated with him, and it's Liverpool away in game week 8. So it's a difficult enough fixture. It's almost the perfect window to sell him. And if that's what you want to do, you should go ahead and do it. I also think if you've got a lot of transfers saved up, there's even more reason to kind of spread that money around. For my team, for example, I've only got 1 free transfer. So the idea of selling Bruno to someone else doesn't really excite me that much. I don't think there's many midfielders that are outrightly better, specifically that I need right now. I'd rather wait until I've got 2 or 3 moves, then decide exactly how I want to spread that cash. But if you're sat there with like 2, 3, 4 transfers, and you've got like, I don't know, Bruno Fernandes and Stack costing you 14 million, could you move that to like Semenyo and Sarr, or Enzo Fernandes and Semenyo if you've got a little bit of money in the bank or something like that? I know which pair I'd rather have. As much as I like Bruno as an FPL pick, I'd rather have the Semenyo Enzo Fernandes combination or something similar to that. So if you've got transfers saved up, and obviously if you're just getting frustrated with him in general, I'm a big believer that you should buy players that you're happy to hold on to. And if you're not happy to hold him, then definitely sell him. In terms of value, at 9 million, he's definitely not that player. But it's worth saying we don't need a bunch of 4.5 to 7 million players in our team. We need a bunch of value players, but at some point you've got to spend your budget. So again, unless you're in massive need of the money, I think it's okay to hold on to him. I wouldn't expect much against Liverpool, but after that, the fixtures are okay. He's always going to play. He may keep penalties. We'll have to wait and see. And his underlying numbers are nothing special, but they're also okay. He will be pretty consistent. When he gets an attack and return, he's very good for bonus. He's still an okay FPL pick. And that's how I feel about him, really. He's in my team. I'm not massively stuck on having to keep him, but I don't look at him as a player I need to force out either. I'd rather roll to 2 free transfers than sell Bruno Fernandes with 1 move. But if I was sat there with 4 or 5 transfers, I'd be pretty keen to spread that money around, especially if I had no other problems to deal with. Let's talk about another Fernandes, this time Enzo at Chelsea, 6.7 million at the moment. The 5th most brought midfielder so far this week. I actually thought he was going to be a little bit higher than that, but perhaps the yellow flag has put a few people off buying him. I was listening on Monday morning to Planet FPL. James does a Ask James stream every week, and it was from last week on Thursday, and it felt like every other question he was getting was about buying Enzo Fernandes. So he's super popular at the moment, and for good reason. I think with Cole Palmer struggling, Enzo is playing number 10. His underlying numbers are great so far this season. 0.42 non-penalty expected goals per 90, similar to Semenyo. And as far as we know, based on the 1 penalty Chelsea have got with Palmer off the pitch, he's next in line. So for under 7 million, he looks like one of the better picks at the moment. The only thing is the yellow flag. So he's left the Argentina camp early because of a knee problem. Now, the game he would have potentially played before coming back was a friendly anyway. So I'm not sure he would have played. But the fact he's left with this knee problem obviously puts question marks over it. Personally, I think he'll play. I think this is just, there probably is something there, but they're being more cautious because it's just a friendly and an international break. We've seen Erling Haaland, for example, for Norway, has been given the second game off. It's happening quite a lot in this particular break where players aren't being risked. And I think that's basically what's happening with Enzo. So wait and see what Maresca says on Friday. Obviously, if he puts any doubts there, you don't have to buy him this week. Like, Forest away is not bad on paper, especially with Ange Postecoglou still in charge for now at least. But if you have to buy him in 9 instead against Sunderland at home, that's perfectly fine. If Maresca says he's okay, then go and buy him. It just, everything looks good for Enzo at the moment. And also, with the Cole Palmer situation, look, as you probably know and realise, I'm not a medical professional. I've got no inside info on this whatsoever. But it just seems like one of those injuries that's going to take ages to clear up. I would not be surprised if we're sat here in a month or two and we're still talking about Cole Palmer. He's not quite right now. The minutes aren't there. He's being rest. I just don't think it's going to clear up anytime soon. And that's based on the fact that we know he's had this for 3 or 4 months and it's still causing him problems. Like, he was going to be back, then he wasn't, then he needs the international break off. Like, Enzo and Maresca might come out on Friday and say Palmer's absolutely fine, but I doubt it. And if he's just had another 2 weeks rest and is still not okay, well, the minutes are going to be unsure for 9. Basically, the longer he's out or struggling, the better it is for Enzo Fernandes. And the nice thing about him is, even if Palmer suddenly gets back and is playing all the time and Enzo plays a bit deeper, because of Caicedo, you know Enzo's going to be the one that always gets forward and he's always going to play. 88 minutes per start. He's not going to get a rest unless it's absolutely needed. I think under 7 million at the moment, he's probably the best midfielder to buy, I would say, when you take into account penalties, stats, fixtures, etc., especially in the short term. If you've got the money to go up to like a Semenyo and you don't own him either, I would still argue he's probably the better pick. But for 1.1 million less, or sorry, 1.2 million less at the moment, yeah, Enzo's just looking really good. I would just say don't take any risks. On Friday, if Maresca says any kind of doubt, they're not sure about him, or we'll have to wait and see, then there's no need to rush the transfer. He's not all of a sudden essential. Although that's what, honestly, I feel like that's what people think at the moment. The amount of times I was seeing his name, I don't know, I mean, I'm talking about him, so I guess I'm just adding to it. He's good. He's really good. I just don't think he's force him in, even if he's a doubt good. Basically, you can always wait until the Sunderland game. So I've just said that Enzo Fernandes is arguably the best midfielder to buy under 7 million. And some of you are probably thinking, isn't that a little bit harsh on Ismaila Sarr? And the answer to that is yes, possibly, because he's a really good option as well. And he's a bit cheaper at 6.5 million. His goal threat has been better so far this season as well. But I think when you take into account short-term fixtures, I'd rather buy Enzo right now than Sarr. I think basically with Crystal Palace players, if you want to buy them for Bournemouth at home in 8 before Arsenal away in 9, it's fine. But the better window to buy them is probably game week 10. Basically, Chelsea have got Forest away, Sunderland at home next 2. Sarr's got Bournemouth at home, Arsenal away. Now, we know how good Palace are. They've given Liverpool problems in the last game. They were maybe a little bit unlucky to lose to Everton. I don't want to take anything away from Everton. They were much better in the second half. But Palace could have run away with it in the first half. So they'll cause anyone a problem. And they could well wipe our Arsenal clean sheets in game week 9. But it's not a fixture to target, right? And Bournemouth at home, I don't see that being a massively high-scoring game for Palace either. So I think basically you can wait until game week 10. But if you don't want Enzo, or you've got him and you want to pick up another midfielder in and around that price, Sarr probably is the second best option. His goal threat in that Palace team is just so good. And this is not a fluke this season. It was exactly the same last year. And if anything, it's so impressive that he's carried that on. Palace are just such a good side. They get so many chances. And from game week 10, it's Brentford at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Man United at home. So 3 not bad home fixtures whatsoever. And even the away one against Wolves is good as well. Now, presumably Sarr will be going away for African Cup of Nations with Senegal. But that's something to worry about in like game week 17. There's so many games to come before that. And we're going to get our 5 free transfers in game week 16. I don't think there's really any issues with picking him up. I do want to go to midfielders though quickly. and look at price just to see if there's anyone I've missed kind of under 7 million. So I guess Kudus, right? He's 6.7. I've not really mentioned him at all. But game weeks 10 to 12, Chelsea at home, not great. Man United at home's okay. Then Arsenal away in 12. And even before that, it's Everton away in 9. I think if you've got Kudus, you're probably keeping him. I think that's fair enough. I don't know if I would buy him right now. Enzo I've just spoken about. Grealish can't even play this week. No one's buying Rodgers right now. And if I just go through a few others, like Rice is fine. As I said last week, I just don't think he's part of the best 3 Arsenal picks. So like for 6.5, he'll be fine in comparison to other players around that price. But I'd rather go for like an Enzo or whoever I'm talking about, right? A Sarr, I've completely forgotten about, and get 3 other Arsenal players, if that makes sense. Stavio at Chelsea is good. Are the minutes fully secure? Probably not. Doku, no point in buying him right now. There's not many other players. So for me, between 6 and 7 right now, you're either buying Enzo or you're buying Sarr. They're both good picks, but I think with Sarr, you could argue it's worth putting it off until game week 10 instead. Then we've got Victor Gyökeres, just over 200,000 transfers out before Fulham away in game week 8. The only forward with more transfers out is João Pedro. And by the way, I said this last week and stand by it. If he's fit and available, I don't see the need to transfer him out. He's not been great recently, but Forest away, Sunderland at home is good. I wouldn't 100% have him on wildcard this week, but I wouldn't use a transfer to sell him. But anyway, back to Gyökeres. I think this is essentially what I said at the start about there being a theme throughout this video. If you need the money from selling Gyökeres, I think it's fine. He's not essential. 9.1 million is not particularly great value. He doesn't look like his first choice penalty taker for Arsenal. That is Saka. The fixtures are okay, for sure, but he's not someone you have to keep. So if you want the money or you want to switch to Saka, it's fair enough. But at the same time, especially when you're looking at one transfer moves, I don't think there's many forwards that are just miles better than him. And if you don't need the money right now, I would just keep hold of him for a few more weeks. You know, wait and see what Arteta says on Friday. Maybe he'll give a really positive update about Kai Havertz, who's going to be back by game week 9 or 10. All of a sudden, then you worry a little bit more about Gyökeres' minutes because Havertz will get some game time in that number 9 role. But if he continues to be out, there's not a huge amount of competition there. Yes, Marino can play that role. Yes, Trossard could. I guess Martinelli could as well. But we've got to be encouraged by the amount of minutes Gyökeres has played recently. So there's plenty of good forwards, but I don't think there's many apart from Haaland that I'd be, in a rush to get. Mateta is someone I really like, but as I've just said with Sarr, it's Arsenal away in 9. There's no rush to get him before game week 10. I think João Pedro is perfectly reasonable to hold on to, perfectly reasonable to include on a wildcard, perfectly reasonable to even buy this week. But am I worried about having João Pedro against Forest away instead of just holding Gyökeres for Fulham away? Not really. No one's buying a Brighton striker. Voltemada's fine. But again, is he miles better than Gyökeres this week? Not really. And I can go down the list of all forwards here, but it's going to be exactly the same thing. They're fine to buy if you want to. Same with Jared Bowen. But in any given week, none of those strikers are miles better than Gyökeres. So until you need the money, or until you're absolutely sure how you want to spread that money around, I would just keep hold of him. That's what I'm doing at least. I'm not particularly excited about having him in my team. I do think there's still a small chance he will take the next penalty over Saka, but that is far from a guarantee. It's quite clear Saka's first choice. So I'm not excited about owning him. But honestly, I've felt that way ever since he's been in my team. And the more he plays 90 minutes, the more encouraged I am with him. Like, he's going to get chances in that Arsenal team. The rest of the team is too good for it to not happen. And if you get to game week 10, he's still there, and Havertz is not back, you ain't selling him before Burnley or Sunderland. Then you can think about what to do 12 onwards when the fixtures get a little bit... They're not even that tough, I don't think. Spurs at home in 12 is fine. Chelsea away in 13 is not great. Then it's Brentford at home, Villa away, Wolves at home. I don't know. I'm quite patient with players unless there's an absolute need to sell them. I just think, like, if I got to game week 14, he's still somehow in my team, but there's nothing I need the cash for, I will just hold on to him. That's kind of how I feel. Like, he's fine. I said this a lot in the stream last week. Lots of players right now are just fine. And game week 8's not a amazing week to move on to others anyway, unless you're specifically targeting Chelsea. So let's hope Gyökeres actually scores a goal soon. That would be nice, but I don't see a major reason to sell, for sure. I'll leave that on there. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Game week preview will be back tomorrow. So any questions and stuff that I've missed in this one or players I've not talked about, you can get your questions in for the game week preview. Team selection on Thursday. Final thoughts on Friday. Deadline stream on Saturday. It's good to be back. Hopefully you enjoyed and are enjoying your international break. But if you're excited for FPL content to be back, good news, it's back. We're here. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you again soon.